So I'd like to talk about the combination reading method. Talked about the first and last in a previous video. This one is similar. This one you may want to use for a science or a fiction passage. I'm going to show an example on a science one in a subsequent video, actually. So, reading the introductory information, I'm going to cut my fat face out of here. Reading the introductory information again, the same process, no more than actually probably in this one. And I said it's ACT, but it could be either or ACT or SAT, similar concept. Reading the introductory information. So the introductory information is again, and we're going to look at this in a subsequent video. The Thor Hansen feathers. Scientists have long debated how the ancestors of birds evolved the ability to fly. So the ground up theory assumes they were fleet-footed ground dwellers. They captured prey by leaping and flapping their upper limbs. The tree down theory assumes they were tree climbers that leapt and glided among the branches. So we know that this is going to be something about those theories. Okay, so that's why it's so important to read. Oh, I'm on the wrong side here. So important to read that introductory information quickly. Gives you an idea for what the passage is about, etc. Read the first half of the passage closely. So in this particular case, and I'll demonstrate this in a subsequent passage, we read this particular passage closely. So at field sites around the world, Kendall. Actually, I'm going to do it right now. Actually, I'm not going to do it in a subsequent video. I'm going to do it right now. Kendall saw a pattern in how young pheasants, quail, canamus, and other ground birds ran along parents. They jump up like popcorn, he said, describing how they would flap their half-formed wings and take short hops into the air. So when a group of graduate students challenged him to come up with the new data on the age-old ground-up tree debate, he designed a project to see what clues lie in how baby game birds learn to fly. And I marked this, underlined it as the thesis. Kent settled on Shukar partridge as a model species. But on the Shikar partridge is the model species. But he ended up made his discovery with a key piece of advice for the local ranger in Montana who was supplying him with birds. So this is a narrative. This is a good one for the combo reading method. When the cowboy stopped by to see how things were going and showed him his nice, tidy laboratory setup and explained how the birds' first hops and flights would be measured, the rancher was incredulous. He took one look and said, in pretty colorful language, "What are those birds doing on the ground? They hate to be on the ground. Give them to something to climb on." So this is, I said, this discovery of the birds need to have something to climb on. It seemed important to me. At first, it seemed unnatural. Ground birds don't like the ground. But as he thought about it, Ken realized that all the species he'd watched in the wild prefer to rest on ledges, low branches, and other elevated perches where they were safe from predators. They really stood out. They really only used the ground for feeding and traveling. So he brought in some hay bales for the chukars to perch on and then left his son in charge of feeding and data collection while he went away on a short work trip. Barely a teenager at the time, young Terry Dow was visibly upset when his father got back. I asked him how it went, Ken recalled, and he said, "Terrible. The birds are cheating. Instead of flying up to their perches, the baby chukars were using their legs. Time and again, Terry had to watch them run right up to the side of a hay bale, flapping all the while. Ken dashed out to see for himself, and that was the aha moment. The birds were using their wings and legs cooperatively, he told me, and that single observation opened up a world of possibilities. The birds learning to use their legs. That to me was important. So that it demonstrates the first half reading method. Okay. So as I'm and reading the first half of the passage closely, remember, we're not spending more than 5 minutes reading. So if what I'm doing is too much detail for you, then don't do it. Then just find a method that's comfortable for you. I'm just offering you some suggestions on methods. The combo is hence the combo of the first and last. So read the first and last sentences, first to last 1 to 2 sentences of each remaining paragraph. So here we go. I'm going to get my fat head out of the way again and get back to the passage. This is practice test 3, which if you're a senior, you took in December. Working together with Terry, who has since gone on to study animal locomotion, Ken came up with a series of ingenious experiments filming the birds as they raced up textured ramps tilted at increasing angles. As the incline increased, the partridges began to flap, but the angle of the reins differed from the birds in flight. So when I said, this is a different way for the birds to fly. The birds were doing the very same thing with their wings. Now I'm going to skip to the last sentence, with their wings to help them scramble up otherwise impossible slopes. Ken called this technique WARE, for wing-assisted incline running, and went on to document in a wide range of species. In the Chukar experiments, adults regularly use wear to ascend ramps deeper than 90 degrees, essentially running up the wall onto the ceiling. So I underlined some of the key points. Then the first and last, and then read the whole last paragraph. In an evolutionary context where it takes on surprisingly explanatory powers. With one fell swoop, the Dalles came up with a viable organ for the flight flapping stroke of birds, something gliding animals don't do, and thus a shortcoming of the tree down theory. And an aerodynamic function for half-formed wings, one of the main drawbacks to the ground-up hypothesis. So this is a combination, so to speak, of this ground-up and ground-down thing. Where and I talked about the impact and explanation for where. So you've got the step 3: read the first and last 1 to 2 sentences of each paragraph. I highlighted there the main ideas and key transitional points. And then using the skip strategy appropriately, move on to the questions. If you need to skip some based on the more difficult questions. Refer back to the passages needed. Try to predict and eliminate answer choices once you read the question or sure what you understand what it's asking. So in a subsequent video, I'm going to talk about the question types and how those end up. I'm going to review again the question types with this particular passage and show you how that ends up playing out with this particular passage. But I'm going to do that on a subsequent video, this time for real.